Working for a large employer, some type of employer-sponsored retirement plan is just about guaranteed. For a publicly traded company, likely that's a 401k. But what about people who don't? The self-employed or those working for a small company? What then? Stay tuned. How to save for retirement without a 401k coming up. Hey everyone, it's Jeff Drayton, Certified Financial Planner Professional and founder of Jeffrey A. Drayton Financial Planning and Wealth Management, LLC. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're viewing this from my website, fill out the sign-up form at the top of the blog page so that we can contact you when new content becomes available. There are a lot of retirement plans that companies offer. 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans, pension plans. The list is long. And there is something that all these plans have in common. Each of them offers some type of tax advantage for participating, which makes sense. It's in our government's and society's interest to see to it that individuals save for their eventual retirement needs. We should provide an incentive to do so. But what about those of us who do not have one of these employer-sponsored plan options available? Maybe we work for a small company, or maybe we work for ourselves as a business owner. What then? Does this mean we're simply not invited to the party? Well, fortunately, no. There are options available. And in this video, I'm going to go over three retirement savings options that you do or might have available to you even if you do not have an employer-sponsored plan, such as a 401k. Your first and easiest option is an individual retirement account, or IRA. This might seem an obvious choice and hardly worth mentioning, except there are some details about IRAs that frequently go overlooked, and some of these can have a significant impact on the degree to which you are taking advantage of this option. So to start out, some basic IRA rules. Generally, IRAs come in two types, Roth and traditional. A Roth IRA is an account that gives you no current tax savings. However, money that is put into this account and not taken out until retirement, generally anytime after age 59 and a half, will never be taxed again. You will not be charged taxes on the earnings in this account. However, there is a catch. To contribute to a Roth IRA, there's a limit on how much you can earn. The limit depends upon your tax filing status, but in 2019, the year I'm making this video, the earnings limit for a married couple filing jointly begins phasing out at adjusted gross income of $193,000. However, the other type of IRA, a traditional IRA, has no earnings limit. Anyone who has earned income can have a traditional IRA. The tax advantage to this type of account is that any earnings that are generated in the account from investment returns are tax deferred. You will not have to pay taxes on this account until you begin taking withdrawals, presumably when you are in retirement. Possibly, you will also get a tax benefit on the money that you contribute to the account, in that you might be able to get a tax deduction for your contribution, thereby making your contribution pre-tax. Here things get a little complicated. If neither you nor your spouse has any other retirement savings plan options available, meaning no employer-sponsored plans, then yes, your contribution is tax deductible, regardless of your income. However, if either of you do have other retirement savings options available, then the deductibility is dependent on your income and who it is who is making the contribution. Individual retirement accounts have a few great advantages, some of which might even be superior to that which you will find in an employer's 401k. Specifically, you will likely have far more investment options in an IRA. An employer-sponsored 401k will offer as investment options whichever funds that employer, or likely the employer's plan custodian, has chosen to make available in the plan. And sometimes these options are not spectacular. In an IRA, with very few exceptions, just about any investment option, any widely traded stock or mutual fund or ETF, is most likely going to be available to you as an investment choice in your IRA. However, there are some downsides to an IRA. First, any retirement savings that you are doing on your own means that there are no employer contributions. All the contributions are coming directly from you. And on top of that, these contributions have limits. The IRA contribution limit in 2019 is $6,000 per year per individual, $7,000 if you have reached the age of 50. For most people, retirement savings at a minimum should be at least 10% of your pre-tax income, more if you have started your retirement savings later in life. Therefore, this $6,000 contribution limit is none too much for those who have moderate or better than moderate annual income. But here again is a place where there is an opportunity for those who know the IRA rules. In addition to the $6,000 limit, there's also a requirement that you have earned income, meaning if you did not make $6,000, the most you can contribute is however much you did make for the year. Even if you happen to have $6,000 available, say in a savings account, your contribution has to come from your earnings. This is true for both IRAs and 401ks. Even in a 401k, you have to have earned income to make a contribution. However, with an IRA, if you have a spouse and that spouse did not have any earnings for the year, as long as one spouse's earnings exceed the $12,000 contribution limit for the two of you, that non-wage earning spouse can borrow from the other spouse's earnings to still make their contribution. Put another way, as long as the household made $12,000, 14 if you are over the age of 50, you can both still make your contribution. In employer-sponsored plans such as a 401k, there is no such borrowing of a spouse's income. However, many people find the IRA contribution limits to be inadequate, even if they can take advantage of the ability to maximize their spouse's contribution limit also. After all, the contribution limit for a 401k isn't $6,000, it's $19,000, so substantially more. So if you are self-employed, what do you do if you would like to have access to a contribution limit like that, but without an employer, you can't have a 401k? Well, guess what? Maybe you can. A second option for the self-employed is a solo 401k. Now, this is an option for a person that is truly a one-man or one-woman shop. If you have employees, this won't work. However, it might be a possibility for, say, an independent contractor. If that is your situation, you should talk to your certified financial planner professional to see if this might be available to you. If so, this is a great opportunity. To establish your solo 401k, you'll want to contact your brokerage firm and see if they have a solo 401k plan available. Chances are they will. And starting a solo 401k plan means your contribution limit is not just the $6,000 of an IRA, it's actually not even the $19,000 of an employer-sponsored 401k. You see, with a solo 401k, you don't just get to make the contributions as the employee, but also as the employer. You're wearing both hats. Therefore, the combined contributions, employee and employer, could be as much as $56,000, possibly more if you are over the age of 50. The exact limit is subject to a bit of a computation, one I won't go into in this video. Suffice it to say, if a solo 401k is a possibility, there's the potential to dramatically increase your contribution limits over what you would have had with just an IRA. One last option I'm going to suggest for those who would like a plan to save more than what an IRA allows, but are possibly not eligible for a solo 401k. A perfect example of this would be someone who owns a business but is not completely alone. They are not a one-person shop. Of course, you could possibly set up a retirement plan for your business. You could establish a 401k for yourself and your employees. However, for some business owners, this is a bit daunting, especially for those whose business is more than just one person, but is not so large that maybe they feel they are up for the responsibility, regulation, and reporting that a full-blown retirement plan, such as a 401k, represents. And this includes a lot of potential businesses. Any business where maybe there are only a handful of employees. Many professional firms fall into this category. A small law firm or an accounting firm or, say, a dentist's office would all be examples. Here you might have a few professionals, some administrative staff, and that's it. So what's a good option in this situation? Well, one possibility is something called a simple plan. Most commonly, these are established as simple IRAs. In establishing a simple plan, The name really says it all. These plans are designed to be easy to implement. In other words, they're designed to be simple. Basically, each participant in the plan will establish a simple IRA account and will then be allowed to make pre-tax deferrals from their salary into this account exactly as they would with a traditional 401k plan. In order to avoid a lot of the rules, testing, and complication of a traditional 401k, the employer then agrees to either make a 3% matching contribution to each participating employee or a 2% non-elective contribution to every employee of the business, regardless of whether or not they contribute on their own. There are some other rules regarding such things as who you can or cannot exclude from the plan, but that's about it. Again, getting a simple plan established and in place is not difficult to do. The contribution limit through salary deferral for an employee into a simple IRA is $13,000 for 2019, $16,000 if you are 50 or older. Plus, participants will also be receiving some kind of a contribution from the employer. And here is something that is important to note. A simple IRA is a different IRA than an individual, traditional, or Roth IRA. Participating in a simple IRA plan at work does not mean you are then precluded from contributing to your own individual IRA. You can still make your $6,000 contribution to that account. I'm Jeff Drayton. Thanks for watching. As always, nothing in this video is meant to be specific advice for you. Advice like that can only be had by working with a financial planner, someone who knows you and your situation. I would encourage you to seek out someone who is a certified financial planner. This is signified by the letters CFP with the registered trademark sign following his or her name. I would also encourage you to work with a fee-only financial planner. Now that's two words, fee-only, not fee-based, not fee plus commission. Both of those terms mean that the planner or advisor can receive commissions and is therefore not free of the conflict of interest inherent to commission sales. Again, I'm Jeff Drayton. Thanks for watching.